So good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to greet you all and welcome to our third BBG Mentorship Roundtable. This program has been structured with the contribution of our dear Events Committee volunteers, to whom I would like to thank all efforts and dedication. Elizabeth Alderete, Chair of the Committee, Alessandra Leme, Suzanne Thorson, Thais Pagani, and Vera Schaefer. Thank you, ladies. I also would like to thank our trustees, Air Trade Aviation, Arts and Marketing, Bank United, Five Rings Financial, Leader Associates, Multimedia Works, Northwestern Mutual, 11 Web Design, and Westchester Financial. Well, this is our third mentorship roundtable, right? And today we're going to have a very interesting subject. Is your business customer-centric? Have you ever thought about that? Our mentor, Marcia Teixeira, will guide us to this subject in a dynamic and very interactive way. Well, I would like to remind you all about a few instructions on our session today. After Marcia do her presentation, we are gonna divide our group in 2 or 3 break rooms using Zoom. In order for us to do our homework, the exercise that Marcia is gonna share with us. So you're gonna see in your screen a message saying that you're gonna be moved to a room number 1 or 2. And you just accept that. You're gonna immediately be moved to this break room where the dynamic will take place. Marcia will be able to go into both break rooms to give instructions and answer questions and so on. And after a certain amount of time that Elizabeth will take care of that, Zoom will actually move everybody to the main session again. You just have to wait and the Zoom will do everything for you.
Yeah, but if you have, when you appear the Zoom, just don't say leave the meeting, leave the room.
Yes, that's an important detail. Do not click on leave the session, leave the meeting. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the whole thing. Okay? So with no further ado, let me introduce you our mentor of the evening, our dear friend and member, Marcia Teixeira. Marcia holds a master's degree in organization development from Saybrook University and an MBA from University of São Paulo in Brazil. She's an ICF Associate Certified Coach and Process Certified Change Practitioner. She's a native Portuguese speaker and fluent in English and Spanish. And she is a member of BBG since 2019. She's also the 2021 president of the International Coaching Federation South Florida chapter. Marcia is a leadership development coach, a change management and business consultant with over 30 years of experience working in corporate organizations. So she has a lot to share with us, and we have a lot to learn from her. So with you, our dear friend, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me again. So it's always a great opportunity to learn again and to keep practicing when I come to the BBG meetings. We were a little bit talking before about how we miss the dinners and all these things. So we'll come back to that and we'll have more opportunities. So let me share my screen and okay, can you see the screen? Good. So why this topic, right? Because as Andrea mentioned, I am mostly and more recently executive coach. I work with the International Coaching Federation, but I've been also, I never left the business world in the as a consultant. And last year, so since 2016, actually, I work with a partner. I'm going to mention him. He is the Managing Across Borders is the company that we work together, but we are launching the MABCX is Managing Across Border Customer Experience. And we've been like working in this topic of customer experience since 2018 with our clients. And then we saw that there is a huge opportunity for us in all the work that we've been doing. So this is a topic that we've been like studying, reading, writing. There are a lot of videos we recorded together in LinkedIn. So if you go, I will share the link at the end. So you have the opportunity to watch more and to see more of what we do. Okay, mostly we work as consultants in transformation, and the focus on customer experience you're going to understand more as I speak. Okay, so Andrea mentioned we are going to have two breakout rooms. The first one is right after I finish this slide here. And at the very end, after we have more explanations about the customer experience process, we are going to have a second breakout room. Okay. So, but anytime, if you have questions, I'm not checking the chat. So either someone tell me that there is a question and I can answer the question live, or later we can talk. So I prefer that if there is a question or something that is very specific to what I'm saying in the moment, that someone just say take the mic and ask the question. Okay, good. So the topic of, and I'm going to share with you in a minute a few numbers that show how important is customer experience nowadays. But before we start, before we do anything, so what I want you to think about for a few seconds individually can be something you as a customer, okay? So think about a recent experience you had as a customer, okay? So what do you remember about it, and what made it either pleasant or unpleasant? Doesn't have to be a happy one, can be an unhappy one. So we are going to the small rooms. You are going to share a little bit there's two questions here. And when we come back, we will share like popcorn style. So we want to know more. Okay?
Betty, do your magic.
Yeah, I'm the. Okay, just click join. Oi, você que está entrando, saindo,
Oi,
tudo
tô
bem?
tentando, não consigo. Só consegui agora, desculpa.
Vou te colocar para um room, deixa eu colocar aqui. Já começou o trabalho, eu vou passar você para o room 2. Você vai para um breakout room. Tchau. Falo com você daqui a pouco. É só clica no botãozinho e dá um join. Ok. Oi. Quê?
Você mandou eu sair?
Não.
Aí apareceu uma mensagem para mim aqui. Sai e entra para entrar de novo. Eu saí.
Quem colocou essa mensagem?
Eu não sei, popou aqui para mim, deixa eu ver. Não sei onde não, apareceu aqui na minha tela. Eu te obedeci.
Suzane, que a Suzane está aqui tentando entrar.
Então eu fui para a Suzane. Como é que tem jeito de você me mandar de volta?
Tenho, peraí. A Suzane entrou no... Suzane entrou do commit. Cadê a Andrea? Vai lá para o room 2. Por que você está mandando para o 1? Não, eu quero que você vá para o 2.
Eu estava no 2.
Tá. Acho que vou te mandar para o 1 agora. Está todo mundo indo para o 1? Por quê?
Não sei.
Tenta ir para o room 2. Espera aí.
Então, peraí, eu vou recusar esse aqui do.
Agora vai, coloca, vai. Eu vou ficar aqui porque não dá para ficar saindo e entrando, fica muito confuso. Tudo bem?
So it was considered the beginning of the quote unquote second industrial revolution, the beginning of the 20th century. And then after the Second World War, when we had a massive demand, a growth for demand of goods and the growth of families and all these things, it became the age of distribution. And you see the names of the companies that are like the superstars of each age here. Okay, manufacturing, then distribution. Then in the 90s is when we start having the technology. So I started at Microsoft when I started working at Microsoft 1995. So I was starting my career even before that, but it was really the boom of the what really changed it. And it was paving the road to what we live today, which is the age of the customer. So what we are living now, it's really a continuation of the age of information. It's because we saw the things that happen in the age of information. Let's just take a look at this, okay? So this beautiful refrigerator 1914 is the Kelvinator. It's the name of this refrigerator, okay? It was one of the first refrigerators to exist in the world. And here is the Ford Model T. So who knows how much a refrigerator costed in 1914?
$50.
I would say the same.
Okay, hold the number. So, and how much
Okay.
costed a Ford Model T?
$500.
800.
Okay, so it's so interesting how we anchor what we think about costs based on what we know now. A Ford Model T costed $450. A Kelvinator costed $714.
Wow.
Okay, so one refrigerator costed more than a car,
That's
right?
amazing.
It's crazy to think about that, right? And so in 1923, Frigidaire started like a more massive production of refrigerators. And so the Ford Model T, I think many of us know that Ford used to say anyone can have a car any color since it's black.
As long
Okay,
as it's black.
but until 1950, so after the when we had the refrigerators, until 1950, all the refrigerators were white. So can you imagine? So let's make like a parallel thing with what we have today. Okay, so today, 21st century, how much this refrigerator costs?
3,000,
3,000.
3,000, about
Mhm.
3,000.
5,000.
And how much a Tesla Model S costs?
Oh, 80,000.
Yeah. So Tesla costs 80,000. If you add the autopilot, it's 10,000 more. And this refrigerator costs 4.5K, so for $4,500. So, and when you answered the initial question, it was all about how we have this frame of reference of demand and how many options we have. Okay, so I don't know if I would buy a refrigerator with screen, but there are people that like it, you know. I only if a screen cooks for me, I would buy a refrigerator with a screen. Other than that, I don't think I need a refrigerator,
Marcia,
right?
I have an
Yes.
example. What's happened
Uh-huh.
last year with how much we paid for hand sanitizer, you know,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Lysol, mask.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we can pay
Yes.
how much they can
Yes.
pay,
Yeah.
$30.
Toilet paper.
Yeah. So this is to show the following, right? So the comparison that we have in the difference between 20th century and 21st century. 20th century was product-oriented companies. Okay, so because of the people buying, right, especially after the Second World War, and there was no such thing about oh, I have a complaint or something. So the customer service, if you remember the relationship we have with companies, the like mileage programs, fidelity programs, loyalty programs started so you can have a relationship with the companies. Nowadays is more about the experience, and I'm going to tell you more about this, right? But when we switch to the 21st century, it's not necessarily because anyone can buy a refrigerator. I can buy a refrigerator for $1,000 or even less, and I can buy even more expensive than Samsung one, right? If you get a Sub-Zero, you have very, very fancy and expensive. What makes the difference between one and the other? Of course, quality and the product, but it's all about the experience these products offer to you. The reason why we buy things today, and we are going to talk. So we had limited choices in the past. Now you have abundance of choices. And the voice of the customer in the past was really limited, right? And even your example, Glenn, you said they helped me at the end. I'm mad, I was angry, and all these things, but they helped me. Probably in the past, we heard things like, okay, if you want, it's okay. If you don't want it, there is someone who wants. It's not no longer like this, right? Because we have choices. And the other thing we have today, and I put this big V here, we have a voice. So I don't know about you, but I think the majority of us read the reviews before, right? Check with people, check social media. So we can do a vast search about the reputation, not of the product, but also about the company, right? And we also share in social media testimonials and things that customers talk about us, right? So one thing here, okay? Are you a bird in a cage? And there is a video in LinkedIn that I posted that is about this topic. So the bird really doesn't know it is in a cage, right? The cage is the world for the bird. So executives and all of us, and I include myself in here, is we studied business from the 1911, 1912 Taylor model. When we think about production, sales, so it's really something that is very disruptive nowadays when you think, but we have to learn because the majority of the big companies are still doing business like they did in the 20th century. And people, employees, are measured by those standards, not by nowadays standards. So innovative companies are measuring employees by the satisfaction. And Vera, you mentioned that. So that employee, if the mindset of the owner of the company is 21st century, that employee, because he told you the best for you as a customer, not because they want to sell more, that person will be rewarded, not punished. So in the case of Vera, her example was she was going to buy an upgrade for software. The customer service person told her, you don't need to buy to have what you need. So in the past, people say, yeah, you have to buy to do that. And she said, this guy will be punished by the owner of the company because he told me the truth. If this person, if the owner of the company is a bird in a cage, yes. If this person is a 21st century person and you bought the upgrade anyway because you were happy, so you see the customer experience sells more. So that's the example. That's a very good example. Okay. So more and more what we have are experiences. So if we think about all these companies here, Amazon, so everyone here, I bet, has maybe a bad experience with Amazon, but I bet more than 80% of us have a good experience with Amazon. How quick it was, how fast it was to delivery, if you had a return, how easy it was to return. So I heard a few complaints from people for Amazon, but most of the time, it's easy to do business with them. And what Amazon did to all of us, we live in an Amazon world. So people think and say, if Amazon does, anyone else can do. So people want fast, people want cheap, want option, want to check the review and all these things. So Amazon is really setting a new standard for that. IKEA has their own customer experience, and Apple has their own customer experience, right? I don't know if it happened with you here, but I checked with a few people that when you go to an Apple store, or when we used to go to an Apple store, and you arrive there, they even match. It happened with me, a person my age-ish, to talk to me to make me feel more comfortable in sharing that either I don't know something or so they go to the level of detail in terms of customer experience that is really, really precise customer experience. And we are going to talk about customer journey in a minute. Okay. So a few numbers. I think it's important for us because all of us have a business here, and it doesn't matter if we are solopreneurs or if we are small business or large corporations. We have to think that 74% of the providers still focus on the product and not necessarily on the service. I was this week in a webinar in Gartner, and I found very interesting this data they presented there. So 86% of the organizations will compete based on the customer experience. So the companies will be really willing to show who is the best and what is the best service. And this is going to be a difference among people that do barely the minimum, okay? 75% of the customers expect to receive excellent or good, but it's only 49% nowadays. So if you do a good job, you are going in the right direction. So 80% of the business to business and 65% of business to consumer are still in the beginning of the customer experience maturation. So it takes time. It takes a change in culture. It takes a change in how you measure employees, how you reward instead of punishing. So it really changes how you manage your company. So it's really important to have this. And the other thing that happens everywhere in the world is some people in the companies think, oh, this is things for the salespeople. I don't deal with the customer. So I have one thing to say. Everyone in the company, everyone is in sales. Everyone is a salesperson. Because it doesn't matter if you are in your line in Publix and you start talking to someone, where do you work? Oh, I work in this type of store, and you start talking, what you do, how you talk, makes also people think about anyone else who works in that other company. So everyone is in sales, okay? So experience. So more than ever, we are in the experience economy, right? So we, of course, cannot do a few things for a while, but it is about this lasting. The same thing that you mentioned about how you felt in the good or bad experience, the business is how about you felt. If you go to an experience that is bungee jump or swim in the dolphins or show, so because the emotion is what stays with you. So what is the experience, right? What is a customer experience? It's all the experiences and moments the customer has before, after, while using the product. It's not the moment that you buy or you use the product. So have you seen these videos in YouTube where people are unboxing products, right? It is a customer experience, right? People open the box and make the comment how the things come. So it is part of the customer experience. I was shocked when I was researching for this topic to see that there are people in YouTube that has channels just to do unboxing things, right? It is part of the experience. It is the emotional connection, and it relates to all aspects of the company. So customers, employees, partners, the environment. So this is the ecosystem. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So suppose you are at the airport and you are in the line and someone starts screaming, right? Or treating someone bad, and later you hear what is the company that person works for. You are going to attach that company, even though it may be a personal travel, right? You are going to attach the personality of that person to the company that the person works with. So this is important because how you treat your employees, so the behaviors and all those things are super interconnected nowadays, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the customer experience pyramid. So what means the customer experience? So there are 3 levels. The lowest level is when you meet the needs of your customer, okay? So if you want to buy glue and any glue helps you, it's okay. You buy the glue, it's a commodity. There is not really a big experience attached to that. But if it's complicated to buy the glue and you have to have someone who helps you to understand how to use the glue. Suppose you go to Home Depot, right? And you need a specific glue. You don't know where is the glue. You don't know which glue you use or something. Depending on who will help you in the aisle, will give a different experience in buying that product, not only using the product, but also how you got that, okay? And for instance, many times, I use it Home Depot as an example. Many times, depending on the product I need, I go to Ace Hardware and not to Home Depot because I know at Ace Hardware I will find someone that will explain to me how to do things. But at Home Depot is the forest, is the wild, wild world. Either I find or I know what I want, or I'll be probably lost. I don't know about you. I'm sharing my personal experience with this type of things. Okay. So when we think about the customer journey, right? What is the customer journey? And it's interesting that even if you think you don't have one, you have one. And we are going to talk a little bit later in the next breakout room, reflecting what is your customer journey. So the customer journey is what do you want how you can put yourself in the shoes of your customer and understand since the moment before they do business with you, what they think, what they may need, how they will know about you, until after the fact, how they are going to talk about you, how they're going to relate with you. Let's take two examples here. One is the customer journey of a hotel. So a hotel customer will travel, right? And then there is this consideration phase where, okay, I'm going to travel somewhere. It's personal, it's work. If it's personal, I want this type of hotel. If it's work, I want the closest one to where I am. So it's the consideration. And if I have a mileage plan with a hotel, I may probably receive emails that say, oh, you can't stay in this hotel. I have this offer to you. I have this easiness to do something. And then engage. If you are a frequent a customer, you probably engage with that organization. So you are not even staying in the hotel, but you have a relationship. You know about the promotions, you know about the prices, you know a lot of things about. This is an example. It could be other types of business. Then what is the process to make a reservation with that hotel? That's the key. In the case of a hotel, it is a key experience. So how we really share and how we really deal with the experience. Then you have a pre-stay, how you arrive, what was your room experience. Some hotels, when you give your name and they know you are a frequent flyer, you have a program with them, they offer you a better room or water or coffee or something like that. So it's part of the experience. And when you leave, what they really want is that you evaluate them very well. So, and many hotels are really, really precise in defining the journey because every surprise or how you train your employees to respond to any situation is crucial to the experience. Let's take a look at Starbucks, right? Starbucks plan for enriched experience and for poached experience because they need to train the employees to understand what if someone comes here and say, this is cold, how do I respond? Or if someone smiles at you and say, oh my gosh, this coffee smells amazing, right? So how you really deal with that. And there is this anticipation. So before you go to grab your coffee, what you were thinking. When you enter the store, so what do you do and what responses the customer can have. Then how they engage. Look interesting. Fake greeting is a poached experience. And polite and convenient is a great experience. Confined, if someone feels in the line or nowadays that they change it completely the customer journey. If you look at, I haven't been to a Starbucks after the pandemic, but I noticed they have lines, they have ways, they don't have tables inside. There are a lot of changes because of the COVID situation, right? Of course, this is pre-COVID, right? So all these companies are really precise and they think about that. There are companies and companies that do that. If you think about the journey when you rent a car, when you think about the journey when you go to a bank, when you think about the journey when your customers buy a house. So there is a lot of things. So when they consider, when you list, when you look at, when you visit, so there's so many things that are really a journey. And the more you think about, you plan for that, the better you can respond, like in this case of Starbucks, because you plan for that. If your customer comes and say, I'm not happy this drink is cold, you can offer a gift, you can apologize, you plan for that. So planning for the experience is really important. Okay? So I'll come back to, I will give an example about the ecosystem. I mentioned the ecosystem, right? And there are a lot of people in many companies, it doesn't matter the size of the company, where people inside the company says, I don't deal with customers. Customers are not my thing. I'm not in sales, right? Okay. So this example is important. This Zion National Park, they were having a problem where this park was famous because of the butterflies. A lot of people went to this park because of the butterflies. The butterflies started to disappear. And the ecologists started like, what is going on? Why the butterflies are disappearing? So the park is going to completely be out of the beauty that they had. So what they discovered was the tourists caused the cougar to go away because the cougar became afraid of the tourists. Then the deer, who was the animal that the cougars used to eat, started to eat the flowers. And the flowers were what the butterflies were going. So without flyers, no butterflies, the cougars went away. So it took 20 years for them to study this ecosystem and understand that this happens. So if you have an employee or someone who is greeting the customer when the customer calls and say, hello, instead of the name of your company, or not dressing well, or not smiling, how many customers you were losing because of that? It doesn't have to wait for 20 years, right? Like the ecologist, this is an example how the ecosystem is super important. And organizations have ecosystems, right? So when you say, I sent an invoice, if the invoice is not well written, and I have a hard time to understand why I'm getting this line of costs in the invoice, so what is going to happen? How I'm going to have, I'm really creating problems. I'm someone who has to call just to ask what this invoice means. So it is already an additional pain point that if you prepare for that, you don't have it. Okay? So let's go back to the customer journey, right? So the customer journey in a very simplified way are these 4 big steps here. The first one is the discovery, is when the customer has a need and they want to discover who offers that, okay? Who offers the product that I need? Who offers the service that I need? Where can I find out about that? So here we have websites, we have brochures, we have presentations, we have groups like BBG where we promote ourselves, where we tell each other what we do. We have many other groups, the chambers of commerce. We have many places where people can go and find information about a specific need. And of course, nowadays, Google, social media, Facebook, and all these things all together, right? What is your experience when a customer wants to buy your software, your solution, your product or service? Where are you? So that's the first reflection. Where can I find information? Where people can find information about me? I'm always concerned about that. And there are a lot of people that are doing studies, let's say in social media, where they say that people are not buying. There are people that have, oh, I have my personal page and I have my business page. This is becoming very connected because people buy from people, right? So there are many companies motivating employees to talk about their companies in their personal pages, in a sense, because again, every employee, it doesn't matter if it's my personal page in Instagram, I also represent, in a sense, the company. So companies are also thinking about how I create a good way for my employees to talk about the companies. So it's really like it's becoming a crazy thing. All this phase, only the discovery phase. Okay. Then the consideration. Consideration is when I compare the solutions. If I want to go to a restaurant, I check Yelp and I see, okay, look at this. I want to eat shrimp today, and I heard about this restaurant, and I go to the reviews, and the most recent review says that all complaints about shrimp. And I said, no, I'm not going to this restaurant today. I'm going to another one. So it's really, really important to be like Starbucks in their experience. So they prepare for the good and for the bad. Okay. Then comes the decision phase. Okay, I have three options. Which one I'm going to buy? I saw one presentation once from a lady. She was the owner of an advertisement company, and she said that more than one client mentioned that they closed the deal with that company because when they were in the waiting room, they were with the receptionist, and the receptionists were super nice, and they had this chit chat, informal conversation. And the person told about how the company treat the employees well, how the company is considerate, and all these things. So that person had options, but they ended up closing the deal with that agency, that advertisement agents, because one employee in the reception. So we have to be careful and really pay attention in every detail. The more, the merrier. Then the decision comes, and then it comes the execution. So the unboxing of the product, the eating the food, the putting the new clothes, going to the hotel, traveling. So all these things that we have. And if we compare, for instance, companies have personalities. If we compare personality of Southwest Airlines and American Airlines, it is both companies will take you from point A to point B. I can say that you probably will be in point B happier, or at least laughing a little bit more if you go with Southwest than if you go with American, because they will have all this onboarding process and lots of things that they create to make your travel fun. And then after the fact, the realized value, so I'm happy with what I'm getting, and really the advocate. So what I'm going to talk about you. And this is when the testimonials come. This is when the referrals come, and this is where. Okay. So one example here. So every step in the journey has what we call touch point. Okay, let's take one example here. So this is example for a manufacturing company. So the customer buys machines to produce their own products. It's a business to business example, right? And installation and commissioning is when you install the product and then you say, okay, is this working, is not working, all the specifications, and really like concluding the process too. It's pretty much in this phase here, in the justify and commit. So it's between the deceit, it's then engage with the solution, it's installation and commission, right? So this is one touch point from all the journey, okay? How many people in a manufacturing company do you think are behind this touch point with the customer? Probably there is one person or two in front of the customer at that moment. But for this moment to happen, how many people or how many departments are related to make this moment to occur?
No idea.
Okay, we are going to do an exercise about your companies. How many, Andrea?
Hundreds.
Can be hundreds of people, but let's see the names of the departments here. Okay. inventory, field engineer, project manager, warehousing, purchase, process, sales. So all these people are part of one touch point, right? So how many touch points do you think there are? And this is good for you to start planning and thinking, because we are going to do the next breakout session. We are going to talk a little bit about this, right? So how many touch points, if you think about your company journey, how many touch points you think you have per phase or per step here? So you don't have to answer now. We are going to talk when we go to the breakout room. You can pick one example and work together in finding that, okay? So another important piece about this, right? So this company that we did this project here, right? They identified 130 touch points in the entire journey. You see, this is the detailed journey this company did. And here are all the departments that are part of each touch point, because this project was in order to make things better, identify what were the poached touch points, and make sure that we can make things better. So one thing that is important, are all touch points equal? No, some touch points are not the same as others. So there are touch points that we call moments that really matter. And if you think about your experience, it's very important that you identify what are the moments that really matter. Because these are the moments where the customer can just say, bye, I will never do business with you again. Right? So what are the moments that matter in your business? Because if you identify that, you can make a surgical intervention with anyone. Let's see, if I have these touch points here, right, where I have 10 different departments contributing to that moment that matter to the customer, how I prepare these people to understand that they have to offer the best of the best. And probably when you focus in one moment that matter, other moments that in the touch points that happens in your process will get better too. Okay, so let's go to our second breakout room. So my suggestion in this one is you can pick one person who wants to talk about their customer journey, their company customer journey, right? And then you can identify what do you think is the most important moment that matter for your customer. And then you can talk about that. Okay, how is all the people involved be aware of what is the customer need, right? Because you may think that some companies say, the customer needs to know. Have you ever heard that? So when you were working with people in companies and they say, the customer needs to know that things are this way. Okay, how is the customer going to know if we do not tell the customer or inform the customer how they are going to know that? At the end of the day, the customer really doesn't know. It's our job to provide the information to make things easy to the customer, right? So breakout room activity. So let's go to the room and let's think about one volunteer who wants to talk about how in your journey, what is the most important moment for you, and how do you think you can work or even listen from the others in the breakout room contributions and how you can make that moment a fantastic moment to your customer. Okay?
Okay.
Good. I'll be in between rooms, okay, to listen to everyone.
All right. Now Elizabeth's gonna do her magic. Right, Beth?
Yes, I did. Just click join and go to.
Cadê o grupo 2?
Estavam num bom papo lá.
Estão chegando. Eu estou gravando, tá? Eu tô vai e volta, a gente vai ter que fazer uma edição boa.
Muito bom.
Tem que o pessoal voltar, gente, né?
Eu acho que a gente segura mais dos clientes do que os clientes da gente.
Ah, eu concordo. Cliente nem sempre é algo fácil da gente satisfazer, né?
Mas uma vez que a gente tem em mente essa questão toda, ou que a gente se coloca no sapato deles, que é aquela fotinho que tem lá atrás, né? E faz esse soul search, né? Eu seria minha cliente? Eu me pergunto isso. Eu seria minha cliente? Será que eu estaria feliz sendo minha cliente? Né? Por quê? Porque isso faz a diferença na hora em que a gente fala, puxa, eu demorei umas horas a menos, eu estou disponível o tempo todo, eu não estou disponível o tempo todo, quanto que eu tenho. Tudo isso é tão importante, por quê? Porque na hora que a gente entende esses momentos que são importantes, o César usou um exemplo no exemplo dele de o momento em que ele dá o relatório e que ele conta ainda na inspeção o que entrou nessa inspeção, né? Versus alguém que simplesmente dá o relatório e depois tchau, o inspetor não fala nada. Então, isso é um diferencial, né? É um moment that matter super importante no caso do business dele, né?
Com certeza.
A Beth fez uma colocação que eu acho super importante, que é o seguinte: para a gente que é prestador de serviço, é extremamente importante explicar para o cliente como é o processo da prestação de serviço. O que é que ele vai ter em termos de atendimento, de solução, de resultado, né? O que é que ele pode esperar? Porque eu acho que também existe uma questão meio subjetiva em relação à prestação de serviço, e às vezes o cliente entra com uma expectativa de que você vai fazer uma mágica para ele, e a gente ainda não faz mágica, né? A gente quer gostar de todos nós, né? Mas quando você assenta e fala, olha, o que eu posso te atender é isso, o resultado que eu vou te oferecer é esse. Isso já
E é
situa o
interessante.
cliente na expectativa dele, né?
Interessante o que você está dizendo, porque quando a gente combina o que você diz com o que a Alessandra disse a hora que eu entrei na sala lá, que é assim, você não dá surpresas para o cliente, porque você deixa ele confortável na viagem, no customer journey mesmo, né? Agora, você surpreende na qualidade, na entrega de um pouco a mais daquilo que você prometeu, entendeu? Por quê? Porque quando você dá, né?
Exato.
Então, é interessante que a mesma palavra surpresa, né? Ela pode ter uma conotação super uau, né? Eu estou surpresa no sentido de você me deu mais do que
Você me
eu
surpreendeu.
queria, do que eu esperava, né? Versus eu não sabia que agora eu ia ter que esperar 2 dias para tal coisa, você não me contou isso. Então é uma surpresa que não é agradável, né?
Eu adoro fazer surpresa. Eu adoro chegar e o cliente dizer assim, nossa, uau, que legal. Era.
Nesse aspecto, acho que o segredo é
Eu sou testemunha, a Vera está sempre me dando surpresas, eu sou testemunha.
A Beth é minha cliente.
Eu queria fazer um breve comentário que eu acho assim que a vantagem competitiva que os brasileiros têm aqui nos Estados Unidos é essa questão do calor humano, que eu acho que realmente é uma vantagem competitiva que muitas pessoas às vezes não se dão conta. Essa questão de você ir amar, né, vai além do que você concordou, do que você agree, né, pensando em isso. Enfim, eu tive uma experiência no Brasil há pouco tempo, eu estive lá no final do ano, fui no correio, uma amiga minha pediu uma encomenda para eu mandar para outro estado, eu estava no correio, gente, eu fui tão bem tratada no correio, por incrível que pareça, assim, só faltaram me carregar no colo. E até brinquei com ela, eu falei assim, gente, assim, que diferença, porque às vezes a gente tem experiências muito boas aqui, mas às vezes você entra numa loja, você pede e a vendedora só fala assim, tá lá no fundo, vira à direita e se vira, né? Então, tipo assim, você descubra o seu produto que você quer. Então, assim, claro que varia muito da indústria, mas enfim, eu acho que esse calor humano é algo que podia ser bem explorado sempre.
Então, Então, gente, para a gente terminar no horário, tá? Eu vou concluir aqui com o seguinte. Eu mostrei a pirâmide lá atrás, tá? Cada um aqui de nós tem algo que pode ser um commodity. É simplesmente algo que a gente faz e alguém mais faz, tá? Mas o quanto a gente é eficiente, o quanto a gente é fácil de lidar, né? O quanto que a gente explica o serviço, não cria surpresas e sobe, vai subindo nessa pirâmide, porque aqui embaixo tem competição, tem vários. Para você subir um pouquinho, você precisa já melhorar um pouco o seu nível de serviço. Para você chegar no ponto de relacionamento, você precisa subir ainda um pouquinho mais, tá? Então, o que é que, além de ser o meet needs, enjoyable e ease, né? Que são essas três coisas que tem na pirâmide, o que é preciso fazer? Ser reliable and repeatable. Não dá para. Se você fizer uma vez seu bom serviço, você não vai gerar lealdade. Veja, a lealdade cresce à medida que você sobe na pirâmide, que você passa a ter um relacionamento. Eu quero comprar a minha próxima casa com você, eu quero continuar fazendo meu website com você, eu quero ter um próximo projeto com você. Por quê? Porque todas as vezes que que eu fiz negócio com você, você me entregou, você foi competente, você mantém aquilo. Então, a lealdade, ela cresce à medida que você sobe nessa pirâmide e o nome é Reliable and Repeatable, tá? Bom, para concluir, eu vou deixar algumas sugestões para vocês começarem a melhorar essa parte do Customer Experience da sua empresa, tá? Esse projeto tudo que vocês viram aqui é parte de um projeto que eu estou fazendo com o Dirk no MABCX. A gente vai fazer um projeto, assim que tiver lançado eu vou comentar com vocês, porque a gente vai vender um serviço onde em 4 semanas essas empresas começam a entender o seu Customer Journey, seu Moment That Matter, o que eles podem fazer em 4 semanas, tá? Mas para vocês começarem, começa a fazer essa pergunta para as pessoas que trabalham com vocês. Me conta uma experiência que você teve como cliente. Ela foi boa? Ela foi ruim? Por que ela foi boa? Por que ela foi ruim? Por quê? Porque à medida que você começa a criar essa mentalidade de pensar no cliente, começando pela pessoa como cliente, você começa a colocar essa mentalidade dentro da sua empresa, tá? Entenda o seu ecossistema, tá? Se você é uma pessoa que tem parceiros que fazem parte do seu ecossistema, está todo mundo realmente pensando em atender bem o seu cliente, o quanto que eles sabem do seu cliente, tá? E converse com seus clientes. Eu acho que, assim, entre nós aqui, a Alessandra acabou de falar, a gente conversa muito, a gente não tem nenhuma inibição cultural para fazer isso. Mas, e vários de nós aqui fazemos negócios com várias culturas que temos aqui no sul da Flórida especificamente, né? Sejam os mais latinos, cada um tem um jeito de ser, e a gente vai aprendendo isso. Mas começa a entender o que é importante para um, o que é importante para o outro, tá? O que faz você ficar mais próximo do seu cliente, o que você faz ficar mais distante, né? Como você faz para ganhar, o que você pode ampliar, quais são os seus melhores momentos, né? E, então, isso era o que eu queria passar para vocês, tá? Nesse roundtable. Espero que, pelo que eu vi nas conversas, principalmente do segundo roundtable, o pessoal estava animado nas conversas. Então, eu acho que o propósito de trabalhar isso como um roundtable, como mentoria e tal, ele funciona para a gente trocar ideias, né? Eu gostei muito do que eu vi do Antônio, da Cris, e então a barra estava alta. Espero que eu tenha conseguido trabalhar com vocês e colocar isso nessa mentalidade. Todos nós aqui somos business people.
Adorei, Márcia, adorei.
Parabéns.
Adorei, parabéns.
Parabéns, Márcia.
Agora ninguém me segura, eu vou ser a melhor corretora.
Ótimo, ótimo.
Você surpreendeu, Márcia.
Obrigada. Muito bem. Espero assim que a gente continue tendo um monte de oportunidades de fazer, porque eu acho que o que o BBG está trazendo, essas reflexões que a gente tem agora, principalmente nesse formato, sabe, como a gente está fazendo, tem conversa, tem aprendizado, tem uma troca que é super legal, é muito diferente só de um webinar que a gente assiste, tem a troca, isso que é tão importante, eu gosto muito disso.
Interação, né? Eu acho que a interação é fundamental, né?
Também o conhecimento, né? Porque a gente sabe o que o outro faz, Mas eu acho que quando chegar essa oportunidade de você expor por mais tempo e passar uma qualidade de um treinamento que nem você fez, acho que isso não tem preço.
Com certeza,
Realmente.
com certeza.
Muito bem, queridos e queridas, ótimo, obrigada pela oportunidade, até breve, tá? E ainda terminamos em tempo,
Muito
tá
bom.
bom?
Muito bom.
Muito bom, muito
Obrigada.
obrigado.
A vocês, tá, Márcia? Obrigada mesmo, obrigada pelo seu
Obrigada,
tempo,
obrigada.
pelo seu conhecimento. E acho que, como se falou, essa é uma primeira oportunidade, mas a gente pode criar muitas outras que tenham esse nível de interação e que a gente possa refletir sobre tantos aspectos, né, do nosso negócio. A gente sempre tem muita coisa para melhorar, isso aí não tem a
Com
dúvida.
certeza. Com certeza.
Lembrando a vocês que o nosso próximo Mentorship Roundtable vai ser no dia 11 de maio, com a Daniela. Então, a Daniela vai falar para a gente sobre como potencializar os seus serviços através de um aplicativo que chama
Scamper.
Scamper. Yeah.
Melhorando o customer experience, certo, Daniela?
É uma sequência.
Pois é.
Então, no próximo,
Ótimo, gente.
em maio agora, vai ser a nossa última reunião do Mentorship, com a Dani, ensinando a gente como potencializar os nossos serviços e os nossos produtos. No mais, muito obrigada a todos vocês pela participação e vamos em frente.